All right, go ahead and roll for perception.
I got a 13.
Hey, that's pretty good. With that, you can tell there's some fantasy situations going on. You hear some adult language, and with that, you can tell this podcast probably isn't for kids. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Dungeoncast. I'm Brian.
And I'm Will.
This is the podcast where we talk about everything Dungeons and Dragons, from sentient swords to swindling salesmen. And today, we're talking about oozes?
Prepare yourselves. I cast Fireball. The Dungeoncast.
Let's get our ooze on.
Let's get our ooze on.
Yeah. Oozes.
Oozons.
I love oozes. They're so much fun for me. I don't know what it is about them. I think it's their beautiful simplicity.
They're just beautiful.
They're just such simple ass creatures. But I think what I love about them too is you never have to explain shit with an ooze or a blob or a pudding or whatever you want to call them, depending on which one you use. Like you can just put them in a place and no one asks any questions because like I don't know. There's just something about them.
Some ooze.
Yeah, well,
it's like having a mold problem.
I guess so, right? Well, there are some oozes that act more like molds, and we'll get into that.
That's why you need to really, if you want to have a clean dungeon, you really need some like ventilation in there. You're going to start growing oozes.
Well, well, here's the thing. Like, also, oozes are Oozes are kind of known to clean their habitat by just their existence there because they're just acidic. They're acidic blobs of hunger, and so all they do is devour everything they encounter, including all the dust and dirt.
Yeah, everything's super clean except for all that fucking ooze.
Yeah, well, I mean, they leave a nice sheen behind a lot of times. Yeah,
they're acid washing the stone.
Yeah, they're like dungeon Roombas, if you will. So what I like...
this episode's brought to you by Dungeon Roomba.
Yeah, there we go. So oozes and slimes come in a lot of different, I was going to say flavors, but they come in a lot of different like shapes and sizes and colors. Horrible, I imagine. Incredibly, they would probably burn your fucking mouth off.
Like Listerine.
Yeah, dial 2000. Yeah. Oozes usually have unknown origins, which I think is what I like about them so much is, again, you don't got to explain shit. Why is it here? Who knows? Deal with it.
Okay.
Deal with it, fuckers. But sometimes they are explained. Like Jubilex is a demon lord who considers himself the lord of oozes, and it said,
just pick something and become the demon lord of it because it's probably free.
Yeah, probably. And it is said that perhaps like all oozes in all the world were born from Jubilex.
Okay.
And Jubilex does definitely have a huge sway over oozes. This isn't Jubilex's episode, but I will say, like, when he is around, he can raise them up and turn them sentient.
Oh, he doesn't like pop like body pimples and like oozes come out? I'm thinking maybe it would be like that.
Maybe. I mean, Jubilex himself is a giant ooze.
He's just a giant body pimple.
He's a giant black ooze with like glowing red and green eyes.
Right on.
Yeah, and I mean huge. He's like 35 by 40 feet.
So as he moves throughout like
the abyss.
Yeah, like maybe like little oozes pop up from the trail of
I kind of picture it like that. So oozes come in many shapes, forms, colors. They have a bunch of different abilities. They usually have literally 0 intelligence, which is fucking hilarious to me. It makes them interesting to deal with.
I just ooze.
They're essentially enormous amoebas.
Okay.
Which Gary Gygax himself literally said his idea for the Gelatinous Cube and the other oozes was he just wanted something simple that could be plopped into a dungeon, and he based this thing off. The only thing in nature he based it off was amoebas. That's basically what they are.
He got up in front of hundreds and thousands of people at a conference and said, "Look, guys, I just want some big amoebas, okay?"
Yeah. Which I find interesting because...
Deal with it, assholes.
I find interesting because, like, it's such a simple idea, and I can't think of anything prior to D&D that has anything similar.
Cool.
Like, I just can't think of anything.
So this is a D&D original.
Yeah, I would say so. But what's funny is it's a D&D original that you now... I mean, I'm sure you've played a lot of games. Oozes are found throughout all kinds of fantasy RPGs. Legends of Zelda has them. Dragon Quest has them. Slimes Final Fantasy has them sometimes.
True.
Like, oozes are just a thing. Like, I think...
Mega Man has them.
Mega Man has them. Yeah, there's
Mega
just
Man
something
0.
about oozes.
You have to cut... If you hit it with your saber, it splits into 2, and only one of them has a robot head in it. But if you keep hitting them with your saber, they split up into more pieces, and they bounce around the room. Yeah. It's harder to avoid them.
And that's another thing in D&D that comes from D&D, where if you lower... there's a lot of oozes out there where if you get them to low enough HP, they split and they'll split again sometimes.
Multiply.
Willow, the old Nintendo video game Willow had a bunch of oozes.
Oh, cool.
Oozes are a common thing throughout RPGs. Terraria has slimes that roam around. So I would just argue that there's just something about oozes. They're just so simple, and you just put them in anything, and no one asks any questions. Like, there's just something nice about that. That being said, them being simple, they're often used in very creative ways, which is another reason why I like oozes because of their bizarre simplicity. They can be used almost more as props than as monsters.
Okay.
And I'll give you some examples. So like the Gelatinous Cube is the one I see the one most used in creative ways, and like the most common way I see it used creatively is they will be hallway guardians.
Okay.
The thing about Gelatinous Cubes is within a certain amount of reason they will fill the container at which they are contained, including a hallway. Okay. And because they are 100% clear, the whole concept is that it will fill up the hallway, and an adventurer will just walk right into it.
Yeah,
and
that's what I was
like
thinking.
This hallway guardian. It just kind of sits there until it's disturbed, and then it starts to slide out of the hallway and come after you.
You open the door, make a perception check, and if you roll a nat 20, I'm going to tell you that you see like some kind of gleam or shine.
Exactly. Yeah. And if you don't see it, you'll walk right into it, and then next thing you know, roll initiative.
That's dirty.
Yeah, and it will immediately start to digest you.
Yes.
And that's another thing too, is like there's just these creatures of hunger. They just float around. I don't know. There's something about them. I like oozes. I've seen where gelatinous cubes are put into a pit, and it's kind of the same deal where they kind of fill up the pit. And so when the trap door falls or whatever, you don't fall into anything. You fall into the ooze.
Yeah, you don't take fall damage. You immediately start taking ooze damage.
Exactly. You just fall right into it, and you're like, shit. And you know, what do you do from there? And then I imagine the ooze will start to slide slowly out of the pit, right slowly up.
Yeah, he falls into the trap door. The rest of you see this, and you look down into the pit, and you see him floating in what seems to be midair, and he immediately starts to scream.
Yeah, well, except for he can't because like he's surrounded by ooze. So
it looks like he's screaming, but you don't hear anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Get in there and save him. What are you doing?
Sometimes they will literally actually be used as dungeon Roombas, and like a wizard will just have one that he lets float around his fucking lair cleaning shit up. Like I've seen
the evil
that.
dungeon running this. Sorry, not the evil dungeon. The evil wizard running this evil dungeon probably. Yeah. Kills some party members, and goes and Roombas up all their shit. And now he's got swords.
There you go. And that's kind of a thing. What's funny is there is this thing when it comes to ooze acid. Sometimes it damages metal. Other times it digests everything but metal, and it seems to be used haphazardly. Like I know that a lot of the oozes mechanically in 5th edition have a thing where they damage weapons when they're struck by weapons. Okay. To the point where if the damage stacks and if it gets to a factor of 5, the weapon is destroyed. Which that'll fuck you up as a character, especially a low level character. That'll fuck you up. But at the same time, like oftentimes you'll see gelatinous cubes just floating around with like a bunch of bones and like metal objects in them that they couldn't digest.
Keep your spare longsword on you, adventurers.
Yes, definitely so. Like when you go underground, you might not
carry
be coming
around
up
a
with
spare weapon.
Yeah, exactly. Here's one I like to see, and one that's scary is they will be like magical darkness assassins. Where
what cubes oozes?
Well, usually not cubes.
Magical darkness ooze.
Well, no. What it is you'll see like a setup where
kill you in the night.
You'll see a setup where there's a room that's shrouded in magical darkness.
Okay, which I hate.
Which everyone hates, and you wander into it, and you can't see shit, and you can't do anything to dispel the darkness usually because it's like set there in a special way, and there'll be like gray oozes on the ceiling, and they've boom, 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 drop down because they have blind sense. They don't need to see. Yeah. And next thing you know, you're fighting these acidic monsters that are all around you. You don't know how many there are. You can't see anything. Yeah, magical darkness assassins.
I put my sword out directly in front of me and I 360 as many times as I can in 6 seconds.
And then next thing you know, your sword feels really light and you go and you touch it and it's gone.
Oh, fuck. And then I pull out my spare and I do the same thing.
No. Oozes can definitely be very dangerous and very
I'm an archer.
Scary.
I'm just doing 360 shooting arrows into the darkness.
So there's one really cool take that I read about, which I thought was genius, and I'm going to use it one day. And it was like a honeypot scenario. So these adventurers were going through like some sort of dungeon, some sort of wizard's dungeon, looking for loot, and they come into a room which is it's kind of a small room. Like you walk into the door, and in front of you see like maybe 20 feet by 10 feet worth of room, and then there's like a ramp that goes up like 30 feet. And at the top, there is like a chandelier that's a giant glass orb full of water. And inside is a bunch of like gold and treasure and shit.
Oh, fuck.
And so the adventurers, they want what's inside there. So the ranger shoots down the glass orb, which then hits the ground, shatters, becomes sliding down the ramp, all the treasure. And it's not water at all. It's a gelatinous cube that was filling its container and looked like an orb of water. And next thing you know, a giant gelatinous cube and a bunch of treasure just avalanche onto these players.
Oh,
like,
fuck.
That's an amazing trap. That's fucking cool. I really like that.
That is really cool.
Yeah, so I probably, now that you know about it, probably won't do that trap with you, but I will do that trap one day.
Just do it in like a long time from now when I don't remember this anymore.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's such a specific thing. I think you'll be like, why does it sound familiar? Oh, wait a minute.
Why would this chandelier have a bunch of gold in it?
Yeah, and why a ramp leading directly to us? This doesn't add up. So, yeah.
Oh, you can like, you can stack, you can double down on it and be like, yeah, the chandelier's a fucking mimic, and the fucking cube comes out and there's also a mimic.
Oh, that'd be shitty. Yeah. Oh, man, that's shitty. I like it. That's a cool idea.
Chandelier, like,
yeah.
Ooh, I just got my one of my first mimics set on me in one of the games I was playing. It's cool. This episode's not about mimics. This episode's about
not.
oozes.
But I like mimics a lot too, and they'll get their own episode.
You do a lot of cool stuff with mimics.
So with oozes being mindless and for the most part, except for the cube, formless, it makes them, interestingly enough, immune to a lot of shit. They're mindless, so they can't be feared. They can't be charmed. They're blind, so they can't be blinded. They don't have ears, so they can't be deafened. They can't be knocked prone because they're an ooze. And because of the nature of like the fact that they're like not an animal, like, or a living like humanoid, like they can't become exhausted. They're immune to all of these effects. Very often they are immune to acid in general and resist most elemental spells.
Yeah.
They also resist slashing damage, as well as we've talked about damage the very weapons which are hitting them.
Yeah, they're just big like defense blobs.
Yeah, like they're a fucking problem. They're often
Giant
more
hurdle.
of an obstacle / trap than they are a monster. And again, they could be used in all these super creative ways, mostly because they're mindless. Like you can't lock something. You can't usually lock something up in that glass orb honeypot thing we talked about, if it can think, because it's going to fight its way out eventually. Usually, like you have to take further precautions to make that trap work. But it's easy with an ooze. It's not going to fight. It's just going to sit there mindlessly until the glass breaks. And then it's just going to slide down the ramp into these players and taste them and then begin to try and eat them.
Okay, so obviously probably doesn't age or die of old age.
That's a good question. Probably not.
So, how do you? So this is a creature with HP. Mm-hmm. What normally happens when your party that you're dungeon mastering over kills your ooze? What does it look like?
Usually I see oozes when they die, they just kind of dissolve into liquid.
And like evaporate away or something.
Evaporate away or something. Like one of the fun things about like Gelatinous Cube specifically is you can often see the prize inside of it. Yeah. And so you're like, I'm gonna kill you, bitch. and then you get that joy of it evaporating, and then bam, there's your loot.
It can carry more treasure than most things.
Yeah. Yeah, it can, definitely, because it's big. And I think there's something that like really speaks to the video gamer inside of me of like, you kill a monster and it drops like a treasure.
Exactly.
Like, that's fun. I like that.
Like looting, just nothing like looting some bodies.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I was gonna say this. There's another origin for oozes, and I prefer this one personally, and it's the one that Gary Gygax kind of had in mind. He had a quote saying this, where like oozes are often a byproduct of like alchemical experimentations going wrong and like random magical shit getting drained down into the sewers, and then it becomes sentient and becomes an ooze.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's cool. I kind of like that.
Nice.
But I mean, you really can put an ooze anywhere. No one's going to question it. You can put it in a forest. No one's going to really question it. You put it in a water situation where they can swim. Like oftentimes, like gray oozes can like swim around.
Don't need to breathe.
Yeah, they don't need to breathe. No one's going to question it. Underdark, no one's going to question it. The abyss, anywhere. There's nowhere you can put these oozes that anyone's going to question it, except for maybe the sky.
Or like the middle of town. Like, shit, how did this ooze get here?
It's just like wandering through town. Climbed up from the sewer.
Yep.
There it is.
I mean, you can justify it easily.
Yeah,
I love oozes. Fucking ooze.
But speaking of all this, these sticky oozes, I'm thirsty, and I think we should take a short rest.
Let's take a short rest.
All right.
Hey everybody, welcome to the part of the show where we stop talking about that last thing because it's bump time, and during bump time we rest and we talk about other stuff. What is that stuff, Will? What are we talking about?
I think we are going to thank our fans.
Thank you, fans.
How awesome they are.
You're awesome. It's true though. You guys are very awesome, and we love seeing all of the feedback that we get, all the comments, and it's just really great.
Yeah,
really
fantastic.
Good, that good mouthfeel.
Thank you guys again. And then I think this is the part where we tell people where they can find us.
Yes. Where can you find us? On YouTube and on podcast apps like Stitcher Radio and Podcast Addict. SoundCloud.com/The Dungeoncast. Searching Dungeoncast on YouTube. I don't know. Is that everything?
I think that covers it. But then I think the last part of the rest is where we tell people who like our content what they can do for us.
Oh, please, if you like our content, here's something you can do for us, and that's tweet about the show. Tweet about the show or tell your friends. If you don't know our Twitter, it's at the Dungeoncast. You can follow us there, and then you can start talking about us. Just a lot, just a whole bunch.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah, if you think there's somebody that would like the show, please let them know where to find us. We'd really love to get them in, learning about all this cool stuff. Jump on the boat with me. Learn the cool things.
Absolutely. And then I think this is the part of the bump where we thank them again and say, let's get back to the show.
Thank you, guys. Let's get back to the show.
All right.
Hey everybody, welcome back to our Oozy show.
Okay. Yeah, it is quite oozy today. So let's actually talk about some specific oozes and their shticks. And most oozes have like one thing that kind of sets them apart. We're going to talk about the 4 kinds of oozes that are actually in the monster manual. And we're also going to talk about other slimes of note, if you will.
Slimes of note.
Yeah. So first, let's talk about the Ogre Jellies. They're most basic of oozes. It's going to be, I think, the lowest CR rating out of all of them. It's like a golden blob of jelly that can climb walls. That's kind of its shtick, and it bludgeons you with pseudopods. It just beats you to death.
Oh my god,
that's fucking hilarious to me. It's just like, yeah, it just like takes part of itself, turns into like a pseudopod, and slaps you.
It's not intelligent. It just wants to smash.
Yeah, exactly. And then it also splits into smaller selves. Now,
as it's damaged, or just as like a thing?
As it's damaged.
Oh, okay.
God, can you imagine? It's multiplying.
Oh no, it's hitting me more.
Yeah, so many pseudopods.
It's getting my armor, my chest.
Honestly, all the things that I just said is nothing special about, like, there are other oozes do all of those things, but it is the only ooze that does a combination of those things.
Are they like oily or like chemically in a way where if you set it on fire, it like might have a hard time putting itself out?
Some oozes are more flammable than others, without a doubt. I think black pudding specifically might be more flammable. That might not be correct, but I do know that some oozes are flammable and some oozes resist fire.
Okay.
I don't think the Ogre Jelly is flammable. The Ogre Jelly can climb walls, which I think would lend you to think that it's probably sticky. But the way I've always seen it depicted, I think it just like... I think it's actually less sticky and more...
it makes like suckers, like an octopus, like trapping air and stuff.
I don't see it as being sticky because I see you just getting slammed by these fucking pseudopods. And yeah, you're just getting like real bludgeoned and bruised.
My goodness.
So yeah, that's how I picture the Ogre Jelly. But next, let's talk about the gray ooze, which is much, much, much different.
Yes, first and foremost, it's gray and not gold.
Yes, it's gray and not golden. And it's also smaller usually.
I'm picturing these as kind of like a translucent... all these oozes are translucent? Or?
No, actually, Ogre Jelly's not at all, and neither is the gray ooze.
It's just a solid blob of
this golden
juice.
Not even juice.
Jello?
It's like almost like a
Gack?
putty.
Do you remember Gack?
No.
Silly putty or like clay, like earth,
like Play-Doh,
like Play-Doh,
but like moist Play-Doh.
Just moist Play-Doh,
real moist.
Hit that Play-Doh with the spray bottle. Bring it back to life.
There, you got yourself an Ogre Jelly. Okay, so gray oozes.
That's a quick DM trick out there.
There
Just
you go.
Take a little scoop of Play-Doh, put some gold food dye in it, roll it into a square, and hit it with the spray bottle.
As we're going through these different types of oozes, they are going to get increasingly scarier.
Okay.
Like, we're laughing about the Ogre Jelly. Some of this shit gets fucked up. So the gray ooze...
We shouldn't be laughing.
Yeah,
Will.
this is serious business. Player characters die. So gray
Real
oozes,
fake
dear
people
God,
have
can I talk
died.
about gray oozes? Fuck. All right. So gray oozes are the sneaky oozes of the ooze world. They slither about like snakes. They're really small.
Okay.
And they can disguise themselves as stone.
Oh,
if they're motionless, they will look like stone. They are also incredibly acidic. This is the first of the acidic oozes that we're going to talk about, the corrode metal when they're hit. And we talked about that. The way that works is every time you hit one of these oozes, your weapons take a -1 penalty to their hit and damage until they culminate to a maximum of -5, at which point they are auto-destroyed. They also auto-destroy any ammunition that's fired into them, whether it's arrow or bullet or bolt
throw your
or whatever.
sword.
I guess a javelin, does a javelin count? I wouldn't make a javelin count.
Oh, so this is more of a mechanical, like projectiles, like ammunition only thing?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, auto-destroyed. Also, these things can eat through 2 inches of metal within 1 round.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's scary, dude.
Yeah, that's a fast.
2 inches
that's
of
a high
metal in
rate.
6 seconds. Yeah. Holy fuck.
Uh-huh.
Any questions about gray oozes? They can't climb walls or anything. They just slither about.
So they don't turn into snakes. They just look like snakes.
They're just these formless things that just kind of slither.
Okay,
yeah.
got it.
So it could look like a snake if you want it to, but yeah. Moving on. Black puddings.
I saw something in last episode. We were in the Out of the Abyss book. There was like a pudding king or pudding demon lord or something like that. What was it? Huh?
Jubilix?
Maybe. Oh, that's that.
Yeah, the one we've been talking about this whole time.
The pudding king. That's what it's referring to.
I don't know if he's called the pudding king.
I'm opening it back up.
Jubilix the pudding king is not very scary sounding.
I don't think it was the title. Like, here, you keep talking. I'm gonna look for it.
All right. So black puddings are actually pretty scary. There are these heaving black mounds of sticky slime. They can climb walls.
The pudding king.
Oh, that's
Small
a monster.
humanoid.
Let me see that. I want to see that.
Okay.
This is the Out of the Abyss module, by the way. And yes, oozes are very common in the Underdark. It's a small humanoid gnome. It's a gnome. Why is he called the Pudding King?
It's a good question. I don't know. I kept seeing it like, what? Is this a demon lord? But it's just near the
maybe
demon
he
lords.
commands oozes, or maybe he's just insane. Insanity is a big part of this module.
Okay.
This is not ooze related, Brian. I'm disappointed in you.
Well, it says the pudding king. What do you want from me?
All right. The black pudding, a heaving black mound of sticky slime. They climb walls. They're very sticky. And their thing is they like to leap onto prey.
Okay.
They don't have the engulf ability in this game, but they should, because that's kind of their thing. They leap onto things and engulf them and then begin to eat them.
Yeah.
And the thing about them is the gelatinous cube is like this floating liquid that you can't swim out of. Or you can, you just got to try really hard. The black pudding is like the sticky thing that do you got the monster manual open still?
Yeah.
From our last episode on demons. Yeah, we record these back to back, folks. Go to oozes. I want you to.
Okay, give me a second to get there.
Okay. I'll continue talking while you do that because I want you to see this image. But like the black pudding, like strangles its prey and kills them and then begins to digest them. And it's this really horrific scene. Like, I don't know. I get claustrophobia sometimes and like, oh God, is all I got to say about that.
Yeah, like getting sucked up into that.
Yeah, you're really scrolling through that real slow, aren't you? I think we're on G's.
It won't let me go faster.
They're also incredibly corrosive, much like the gray ooze. I think pretty much for the most part, any other ooze that isn't the Ogre Jelly that we're going to talk about today is going to be corrosive. And
I made it.
You're there. There it is.
Everybody.
You see that? What is that? Like an ogre, and it's just being like
by the black pudding.
strangled by this black pudding. So like they don't have the engulf ability, but I would homebrew it so
This
that
looks
they do.
like engulfing.
Yeah, it looks pretty engulfing, doesn't it? Yeah. So yeah, I would give them that ability just cause. Gelatinous Cube, my favorite monster there is. Period. I think it's silly and hilarious, and if I ever roll a wizard, I want to work with my dungeon master that I can have a mini gelatinous cube as my familiar because I think that's fun. They're transparent cubes of acid. They fill any space they choose to within a size of 10 by 10. All they know is engulf. That is the only ability they have. It is all they do. They move at like 10 feet per round and they engulf. It's all they do. I love the gelatinous cube.
It's like your slow moving end trapping you in a corner.
Yeah, there's something bizarrely horrifying and charming about the gelatinous cube. So those are your four oozes in the monster manual. But some of the more fucked up oozes aren't even in that book. And I know the Volo's Guide has some. I'm not sure which ones they do have, but let's talk a little bit about other ones. So let's talk about green slime.
Okay.
Green slime is a more mold or plant-like creature. It doesn't move. It stays in one place and it grows kind of like a mold. Now, it doesn't just keep growing, but like it grows to like a size of a puddle.
Okay, all right.
And sometimes it'll hang on plants and whatnot. And its deal, number one, is that if you don't destroy every bit of it, it will simply grow back. But if it attacks you, it'll attack nearby passerbys and gets onto you and like burns you or whatever it is it does. Eventually, if you don't get rid of that hand or arm that it got on, you will be transformed into a green slime yourself eventually.
Like you just turn into a green slime.
Yes. Now, there are no mechanics for this because I don't think the green slime exists in 5e yet, but there will be. And yeah, that's horrifying. That's like a body horror.
Yeah,
thing.
it's like manipulating your DNA or something.
I mean, I'm sure a cleric could just heal it, but theoretically, if you're alone in the forest and there's no cleric, you need to cut off that hand now, but otherwise suffer the consequences.
Yeah, just make sure you put that hand on ice and get it to like a healer immediately.
Yeah. Next up is, I don't want to say a favorite of mine, but it's definitely like an interesting ooze and nothing like anything we've talked about. The Slithering Tracker. I do happen to know that this is in Volo's Guide. So if you want the stats on one of these, that's where you got to look. This is a ritual made ooze, and it is a ritual made. It has to be a willing person that becomes this ooze.
Oh, you're transforming someone into an ooze?
Yes, and they have to be willing. And here's the thing, like these are oozes of vengeance, which is
I hate my life. My family was murdered. Turn me into the ooze.
Yes, it's the person has to be willing, and they have to basically have this insatiable thirst for vengeance for some wrong that was done to them.
That only becoming an ooze can fix.
Apparently. What this ritual does is it draws all the moisture out of the body and transforms this person's soul and essence into this slithering ooze monster, usually with their face at the end of it. And
oh, fuck. They keep their face?
well, they have a face, and I'm sure it would look reminiscent to what they look like in real life.
It's like Mask, the Pokemon.
And they keep their mental abilities, except for that their vengeance is dialed to 1,000, and they are driven to seek out whatever it was that they're seeking vengeance on and kill it. And what they do is I think they like smother and suffocate whatever it is, whatever human wronged them. And but here's the thing, like sometimes the Slithering Tracker will have the mental capacity to extend that vengeance to all people related to the person that you're trying to kill.
Okay.
But eventually, vengeance will be executed, at which point they will lose any like purpose.
Okay, so their drive is they've achieved their goal.
They've achieved their goal, and now they're stuck in this ooze
Now I'm just
form.
an ooze.
And they're stuck with this vengeance that they can't satiate anymore because they've already done that, and they're just these nasty, vile creatures of hate. And eventually they go insane and they become mindless.
Yeah, okay.
So it's a real fucked up thing to do to yourself, but there it is, the Slithering Tracker.
Okay.
So let's talk about blood fire oozes.
Okay.
They're giant. Okay. They are another ritual made ooze.
It's an STI.
What?
Blood fire ooze, you don't want that.
No, you definitely don't want a blood fire ooze. That's nasty. They are a ritual made ooze that requires an insane amount of innocent people's blood mixed with some demon ichor, and then the ritual will raise it into a blood fire ooze. And yeah, they're I'm trying to remember because I know I didn't write this down in my notes, but they're particularly vicious, and they will seek out things to destroy. I think they're particularly flammable.
Okay.
No, maybe it's the opposite. No, they're not flammable. They resist fire, and they cause fire effects a lot of times in what they do. Again, this one doesn't exist in 5e, but yeah, they're scary. Yeah,
blood fire if you see blood fire ooze on your, you know what?
Yeah.
Go seek that same healer we told you to see about the hand.
Yeah, there you go. Snowflake oozes. This one's interesting. I don't even want to call these oozes. They're just blobs made of snow. Is that an ooze, Brian? Do you consider that an ooze?
No.
Yeah, well, the game does. The game calls them snowflake oozes, and they roam the tundras looking for warm-blooded creatures to devour.
Okay.
Fun shtick about them is because they're made of snowflakes, they're like 20% air, and so there's like a 5%, or no, it's more than that. There's like a 10% possibility that when you strike them, you'll just miss. Yeah.
Okay.
That's one of their shticks.
All right, for sure.
Yeah. So, and honestly, there's crystal oozes and all kinds of weird oozes, void oozes, all kinds of weird oozes. So we're not going to talk about them.
An ooze for every scenario.
Exactly.
You can get in a snowball fight and accidentally hit your friend in the face with an ooze.
There's a ooze for all occasions.
There's a 20% chance a snowball will just pass directly through them, though.
Yeah, of course. You got any questions about oozes? I mean, it's a simple creature. We decided to do like a light, simple episode following our much heavier episode.
Just the marvel of the human imagination. Like,
yes, absolutely.
Let me take this ooze thing and just sprint.
We're gonna get crazy with it.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So, I think we're done.
If you were to make an ooze,
if I were to make an ooze,
if you were to make your own special kind of unique ooze, what would you make?
I have no idea. But one thing I do know is I once ran a game though where I had a NPC mad wizard who was collecting different oozes. Mostly he was collecting gelatinous cubes.
Okay.
Because he was experimenting on them and trying to make prior to uninvented delicious dessert, which he was going to name Jello.
Jello. Just trying to make Jello.
Yeah,
desperately.
he's trying to figure it out.
He's like, I have a hunger from a life
He
in
was
another world.
so close, but he
taste.
wasn't quite there.
Yeah. I would make a like muck or grimer.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Even
a poison.
Pokemon has oozes.
Yeah, dude. I would make a poisonous just slurry mass that would like try to like oil slick you, like get some in your mouth and make you sick.
I like that. I like that a
Just
lot.
goes around slapping adventurers in the face.
There you go. Yeah, I say that muck from Pokemon is a cross between an Ogre Jelly and a black pudding. He bludgeons you with his pseudopods, but he can also engulf you.
Don't let him catch you in the minimized loop.
Yeah, oh God. Hell no. All right. I think we're off subject enough. It's time to call it a game.
Let's call it a game.
All right.